everybody. It is Saturday. Well, I don't have my watch on. It's Sunday. Moving and shooting. I did a video about it earlier, but I just want to touch on some things that help me be successful when I'm moving and shooting. So I don't have any fancy gear on or nothing, and I just got a regular old bad guy down range, no A zone or anything, because this is more of a defensive shooting thing than a gun game. I've never really taped myself just walking around before, so who knows what this is going to look like. The only thing I really change for my walk when I'm shooting is I'll lower my center of gravity just a touch, just a little bit, from being perfectly upright to kind of bending at the knees to absorb the impact a little bit better. It'd help you to envision what I'm doing exactly is the stance that you take when you're videotaping and you're trying to chase a toddler or your furry friend. Take a few steps normal and then shoot it. Very little different. So there's not much of a difference between normal walking and shooting and walking. Been walking for a long time, I'm sure you can figure it out. Second thing for shooting and moving that seems to work for me, so I kind of push my lats into the ground. I'm not really tensioning at my shoulders at all. I'm just pushing my lat muscles towards the ground to stabilize myself. I still have freedom of movement with my shoulders and my arms, but it's stabilizing my upper body and giving me a better shooting platform. The next thing you got to think about with moving and shooting, your gun is going to appear to be moving around a lot, which it will be, but that's okay. As long as you're not doing this with the sights, you should be okay. If you need a better explanation of that, I have my angular deviation video. It's not very exciting, but it's informative. You should probably check it out. So while you're walking, of course, the gun's going to bounce up and down with your walk. This is fine. You're still going to get good hits. It's the angular deviation that'll screw you up, not the bouncing itself. The last thing that I'll talk about before I get to shooting is the whole now mindset. You try to time it so that you perfectly align the sights with where you want them at on the target. Allowing for parallel gun movement while you build pressure on the trigger is fine, rather than snatching the trigger when you think it's perfectly lined up, creating angular deviation. The gun will move, just build pressure as always. So once again, to simulate the fact that I've just woken up and I've grabbed my gun off the nightstand table, and there's a bad guy at the furthest part of my house, which would be approximately 20 feet straight line distance, I'm going to attempt to engage this bad guy with 5 rounds. Assuming that I'm successful, I'll continue to push myself back, prove the concept of what I just talked about. Let's see what I can do. So as you can see, all my shots are pretty good. It's like I don't know, a decent group. Now I'll try to do it a little bit more aggressive. Here we go. And sent one over his shoulder. So that wouldn't have been good if there was somebody standing behind him. But I'd say overall we were pretty successful. Everybody makes mistakes. All right, let's push it back another 10 feet. At 30 feet, same exact thing, just gonna walk towards the bad guy and light him up. 30 feet again, this time with a little bit more aggressive movement towards the target. All right, so after the 2 runs at 30 feet, remember this was that stupid trip I did earlier at 10, you can see that the group is still what would be considered pretty good shots, probably in an A zone of an IPSC, I'm not quite sure, but that's 30 feet. Let's try to move it back. All right, so I'm about 20 yards now, give or take a foot. So that's gonna be 60 feet. Yeah, 60 feet and bumpy is not something you're gonna run into in a home defense situation, but who knows. Anyway, we still have that one from earlier, which is glaring me in the face. Other than that, you can see we're pretty successful, even at 60 feet. I had this one that's a little bit low, but I think we can all agree it probably would have passed through his hand and hit him in the guts and at least slowed him down for the other 5 that are all in what's marked as the critical zone. But let's really push it and see what we can get out here. All right, so I'm at about 90 feet now, about 30 yards. Obviously, you would never want to do this, but we're going to do it anyway. All right, so at 90 feet, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see a 5th round. So, not a great hit here, obviously. But I think these 3 aren't bad for 90 feet on the move. 2 inside what's marked as his critical zone, and 1 in each one of his arms would probably slow him down. All right, so now I've pushed it back about as far as I can go because of where the trucks are parked, and I'm too lazy to move them. This is about 130 feet. I'm gonna take off from here, try to do 5 rounds into the target, not into the trucks. I'll do the best I can. I wouldn't suggest doing this. If you're 120 feet away, you can either have a rifle, you can run in the other direction, or do something, but don't do this. Anyway, we're gonna do this. I didn't hit the trucks, so that's a plus. 120, 130 feet, we got 1, 2, 3 in the dead center. This was at 130, this is 130, this is 100. Oh, here's a 4th one. Up, and then here's the 5th one. So I missed 1 shot right here, but like I said, 130 feet is pretty far to be shooting and moving. 3 out of 5 were in the critical zone. 1 was in his arm, not a great shot, but again, 130 yards on the move. I'm not gonna really hate myself for that. And then the 5th round was off to the side. I'm pretty sure that was my 2nd shot. I'd say 3 out of 5 in the critical zone, pretty much proof of concept. So like I said, you're building your platform just like always. Drive your lats into the ground, lower your center of gravity just a little bit, and roll on your feet, and you could be successful way farther than any hallway I've ever been in anybody's house. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you try some of these tips and tricks out, I hope they work for you and make you a better shooter. I'm pretty sure they will. All you got to do is trust the process, and you'll see some progress. Thanks for checking it out.